Previously on Aoi Shiro. I returned from running around the same time that Migiwa returned to Shoshinji. We started walking up the stairs side by side. I thought that Aoi Shiro's poor condition and the long-haired girl might be related to Migiwa's situation, so I decided to ask her. In order for us to play until we dropped in the remaining time in the afternoon, I went shopping for everyone.
昼の見張りは念のためって言ったでしょ。やっぱり来るなら夜なんじゃない？腹が減ってはなんとやらだし、その前にがっつり飲み食いしておかないとね。ですよね。やっぱり肉ですよね。
With a strong look in her eyes, Natsumi-sen declared that she was here to kill a god. If I hadn't been affected beforehand by such things like Oni, gods, or Shikigami, I might have worried about her. I might even have laughed. The Tsubaki spirit. No, the Sekiganki.
弱歩きは控えろと教えたはずだがな。お主、剣気の知り合いだったか。肉親よ、家族よ。夏姉さんは私の大切な人よ。もしかして。
I heard a sharp intake of breath from behind me.
もしかして。あなた。
Natsumi-sen realized it was me.
頑張って翔ちゃん。浦島はもうすぐよ。分かってる。島に着いたらしばらく休めるわ。私たちでギリギリだから次の引き潮まであの人たちは追ってこれない。うん、変わらない。間違いなく夏姉さんだ。翔ちゃんの方はすっかり大きくなって。
And so it continues. Greetings, my name is Neosekken, and welcome back to my Let's Play of Aoi Shiro. So, here we are with Kaya on Urashima. She's now filled on what I'm going to assume is like about half a day's worth of life energy, courtesy of me. So the big question I have now is, what are we going to do from here exactly? Are we going to try to go to the shrine anyway? And follow Kaya's original objective before she ran into us? Or is she just gonna do something completely different now that she knows that, hey, you don't need to avenge me anymore, you don't need to kill a god. So maybe we could just, I don't know, run the fuck away or something somewhere? One way to find out, I guess. When I opened my eyes, I was met by her dark, moist, kind eyes. I would hope those eyes would be moist, because dry eye would be a pretty inconvenient condition to have. Because Natsumi-san was a straightforward person. Everything about her, even her gaze, was straightforward. I don't know, it seems pretty sideways to me. Her gaze, I mean. There were some who were afraid of that glaring gaze, but I just couldn't understand why.
ごめんなさい。寝てるところをじっと見て。
It's fascinating, isn't it? Since she has such kind eyes.
私の方こそ、翔ちゃんが目を閉じたら消えてしまうような気がして。
She rubbed her slightly red eyes as she said that.
寝てないの？
Oh.
あまり寝る必要がないのよ。
Even so, you need to give your poor brain a rest once in a while. Well, not once in a while, but often. Just like any other human. Because she was an Oni. Because she was a creature of the night.
それに、翔ちゃんの血をもらったから、むしろ体も心も充実しているわ。
That's right. I gave my blood to Natsumi-san and fell asleep while doing so.
ここは
I finally thought to look around my surroundings. This wasn't the shore, which would reflect the light of dawn.
覚えてないかしら。
We were in a dimly lit cave. Light flooded in from the entrance. Natsune-san probably moved me here so I wouldn't be subjected to the wind as I slept.
8年前も踏み石を渡って
Since I had surely still been small at that time, Natsune-san had to almost carry me along.
この洞窟踏み石の近くにあるんだけどここでしばらく休んだりしたんだけどあ
So this was a place that Natsune-san remembered. Now she had mentioned it, I did feel something like deja vu.
少し思い出したかも私8年前のことだけはぽっかりいろいろ忘れてたからそう
Natsune-san reached out her hand and patted me on the head. The warmth of her hand hadn't changed, but I somehow felt as if her hand was smaller than before. It's because you're bigger.
翔ちゃんこんなに大きくなってあの小さかった翔ちゃんが
Yes, I had gotten bigger.
8年本当に8年経っていたのね
Natsune-san leaned close and let out a sigh, as if indicating the weight of my body was the weight of 8 years gone by.
私の時間は止まっていたからようやくそれを実感できた気がするわ夏姉さんは8年前からずっと鬼なの
I wonder if she had stayed this way and been searching for the sword for 8 years. You know, that's actually something I've been wondering about for a while. I don't know if I've ever asked it. I don't know if I've ever pondered this to you guys out loud, but I've been wondering. Has she actually been revived? Was she actually revived shortly after being killed 8 years ago and just been basically hiding out for the past 8 years ever since, working towards her objective to get the sword and then kill the sea god? Or was her revival a more recent event? Hence why she looks the same as she had 8 years ago. I mean, yeah, with Kohaku and everything, it is shown that if you're an Oni, time can effectively stop for you, and you can be eternally youthful. And then there's Roryu as well, so yeah, I'm curious. Have you actually just been hiding out somewhere for the past 8 years? Oh, whoops, I forgot to read that, didn't I? I wonder if she had stayed this way and been searching for the sword for 8 years. She shook her head, indicating that wasn't the case. So, recent revival then?
私があれから目覚めたのは最近のことよまだ1年は経っていないと思うわ
Okay, so at least somewhat recent. So Natsune-san had died once and remained dead for around 7 years. Until she was called back from the land of the dead as an Oni. She wasn't even aware what happened while she was dead.
まるで浦島太郎よね一度死んで目が覚めたら周りはすっかり別世界
Natsune-san got up and walked towards the entrance, as if saying we shouldn't talk in this dim place, but out in the light. From the world of the Nikata to the land of eternity across the sea. The bright light made me blink.
8年前アキコさんが亡くなった後
At that time, my world had revolved around Akiko-san. Akiko-san was my grandmother. She took the place of my busy mother. And though there was a large age gap, she was my friend. Most importantly, she helped cement the relationship between Natsune-san and I, so that we were as tight as true sisters. She was the one who taught a young me that when a precious person died, that person went across the ocean to an island of eternity. That's why I made a selfish request to Natsune-san.
アキコさんがいる南の島を探して旅して
Natsune-san drove as far south by car as she could, where we arrived at Unisaka. Then,
うなさかの書を信じて数日の間厄介になったわ。
Toei-Uji-san, Natsuni-san's father, and Kabubi sensei were friends, so because of his help, we could stay at Shoshinji. Karma is a mysterious thing. It resembled how we were able to stay at Shoshinji for our training camp this time. We learned there was a whole forest of wondrous Tokusaki no Sabaki in Urashima, so I thought that was the Eternal Island.
そこで浦島に渡る方法を知って、私は私で興味を惹かれることがあったから。
Something? What's something? A genius with few parallels. Nakata Munetsugu and secret sword art. Nakata Kororyu were there. Oh, that? As Natsuni-san and Nakata-san were talking about swords and such, it was too mature a conversation for an 8-year-old me, so...
翔ちゃんは島で同じぐらいの年頃の一人の女の子と仲良くなったのよ。この島の祭司、そして根方九郎流の継承者、根方宗次さんの娘。
Yasumi. The girl's name. What was it again?
ただ、それだけなら問題なかったんだけど、とある事件が起こったの。この辺りの岩場は段差が激しいし、角の鋭い岩もたくさんあるでしょ？
Yeah, nature does seem to love creating really sharp, pointy rocks, doesn't it?
翔ちゃんはそこで大怪我をしたらしいのよ。私が？
Since she used the word seemed, that means Natsuni-san didn't see the injury herself. If Natsuni-san didn't see such a serious injury, then...
根方の家には
it was...
先祖代々伝わる飛薬。あらゆる病気や怪我を立ちどころに癒してしまう火の薬っていう霊薬があるんだけれど。
So seemed. So maybe it's possible that that wasn't an accident, your injury? I feel like I'm missing something here. Like there's information maybe from like Yasumi or Nami's route here that I'm just not remembering that could explain the nature of this injury. Although I don't know how much I trust this feeling right now. My feelings have led me astray before.
その子は翔ちゃんに飲ませたの。
My injury was instantly healed by that magical medicine. Excited, we told the adults about it. And... let me guess. Once Munetsugu caught wind of you guys learning about this magical cure, he was like, you must be silenced, and, well, tried to kill us, right? We forgot that we had secretly snuck it out.
それを知った根方さんは驚いたわ。現役に近い濃い火の薬を飲んだ翔ちゃんが元気に生きていること自体に。そして翔ちゃんは根方さんに連れて行かれそうになり。
According to Natsuni-san, who returned as an oni from the dead, Mikata-san was going to offer me as a sacrifice to the sea god. The Inokurusuri was administered from a young age in order to create a special sacrifice who contained power.
私はそれを阻もうとして。
And you ended up getting killed in the process. Natsuni-san was...
これがその時の傷。
Yeah, that definitely would be a fatal wound. There was a horizontal line from beneath her breast to her solar plexus. There was a vertical line going down which started from her left shoulder. Those two large wounds had left a scar.
あれ？
Without thinking, I reached out and touched Natsuni-san's skin.
夏姉さん、昨日の傷はもう治ってる？ええ、私は鬼だから。
As I slid my finger, it got caught on a large difference on the surface.
この傷はおそらく鬼になる前の傷だからでしょうね。鬼になった時点の体が治るべき正しい形として覚えているのかも。
Pretty much the same assumption I was making, honestly.
私を鬼にした鬼。馬老竜も石眼だったわ。そういうものなんだ。私にもよくわからないけどね。
The small smile she made, as if resigning herself to just accepting it, created waves that caused my heart to swell. The waves went past my heart and overflowed to the outside.
だけど夏姉さん、生き返ったならなんで帰ってきてくれなかったの？なんで1年も？
If I had to guess, it's probably because, number one, she thought that you were dead, and so she couldn't, she felt that she couldn't face the rest of the family because, well, she failed to protect you from getting killed. And number two, well, she's an Oni. I'm sure that if Kaya came back to the rest of the family and they found out about what she became, well, I don't think that they'd have a very good reaction to her, to say the least. But I don't know the rest of your family too well to make an accurate judgment on that, so who the hell knows, really. And number three, she probably couldn't come back even if she wanted to because, well, I would be willing to bet that Roryu would have put a stop to that if he didn't want Kaya to go anywhere he didn't want her to, because after all, he was the one that revived her and made her an Oni, so it wouldn't surprise me in the slightest if he had at least some measure of control over Kaya's actions. Not complete control necessarily, but at least some.
偶然こうして会えなかったらきっとずっとそうだった。夏姉さんは帰ってこなかった。私は死人で鬼だから。でもそれに翔ちゃんを守りきれなかったから。ジンおじさんにもレイ姉さん、高吉兄さんに合わせる顔がなかったから。でも目的を果たしたらお墓参りには行くつもりだったのよ。
So, reasons 1 and 2 then. Okay.
お墓参りって。私は翔ちゃんが生贄にされたと聞かされたし、あの状況ならそうに違いないって思ったし。
Probably because the Cyclops lied to you. By the time Natsune-san heard that, she herself had already been killed once before. The person who killed Natsune-san and was going to use me as a sacrifice wouldn't have allowed me to live.
そしてクロークルーに捧げられた魂は天国や極楽に行くことなく。
The sea god of Hiroshima wasn't an ally of humans like in the legend, but a fearsome god that needed human sacrifices to appease it.
それこそが正真正銘の地獄だと聞かされたわ。だからクロークルーを切るまではお墓参りはできないと思っていた。誰にそんなこと？
Cyclops probably told her.
老竜。
Told you.
私を蘇らせた鬼。石眼白髪の陰陽師に。
That person surely deceived Natsune-san and was using her. Was that person the Sekiganki? The one Migiwa said had been targeting the sword of the Dragon Palace since long before?
神を切るには剣が必要だって。
And that's how she got sucked into this. While Natsune-san fixed the shirt exposing her skin, she continued.
運がいいのか悪いのか、学生時代の友人からそういう噂を聞き出せて、だから私は手に入れられた。
An old friend from school, huh? Okay, I'm looking at the bottom option, and at first, I'm I'm not sure. I'm kind of confused as to what exactly it could be, what it could mean. Like, when it says Roryu is it like is it like her asking who the hell is Cyclops? And we know that Kumaoichi, the sword that we have here, isn't the sword in question. And silence feels like it feels like the exact wrong kind of answer I should be given here. In fact, it feels like the sort of thing that would lead to a wrong or a normal end. So, bottom one it is for me.
赤眼白髪の陰陽師赤眼鬼
The Oni who tricked Natsu-Nisen into searching for and stealing the sword. If our teacher and the older classmates hadn't decided on Shushinji as the location for our training camp, if I hadn't decided at the very end to go and see the Tokusaki no Tsubaki, Natsu-Nisen wouldn't have known I was alive and would have gone to kill Kuryu Kuru. And then, the Sekiganke, who had artfully deceived Natsu-Nisen, would have probably gotten its hands on the sword. The reason my luck was bad might not be because I used it up 8 years ago, but because it was saved up for moments like this.
ねえ夏姉さん何老流って昨日の人昨日のあああの赤い狩衣の
The person I saw on the first night here, the Tsubaki spirit. The Omiuji wielded a huge Oni. Also, that Oni with white skin and white hair was...
あの人ずっと片目をつむっていたでしょ
In addition, she told Natsu-Nisen to hand over the sword that Natsu-Nisen had taken from Migua's place. However, Natsu-Nisen shook her head, indicating that Sekiganke was someone else.
違うわ確かに狩衣姿はいかにもな陰陽師だしあの左目は
That left eye.
とにかく私を蘇らせた老流は
No,
小
no.
さな女の子じゃなかったわ
Don't cut yourself off, man. Just tell me. What for left eye?
老流じゃない
That's right. The first question that person asked me was,
ちと尋ねる将軍職はまだ徳川か
it seemed as if that person had just woken up and didn't even know that Tokugawa wasn't in power anymore. That really should have been your first clue. If she were the Sekiganke, then at the time, she made Natsu-Nisen into an Oni. I don't know why, but I felt relieved, after knowing that person wasn't the Oni who deceived Natsu-Nisen. Was the relief coming from a memory within that didn't belong to me? This is... okay, this is like what? The second, third instance of you referencing a memory or feeling that comes within you that didn't belong to you. Every time you see Kohaku. You come to think of it, wasn't something like that also referenced on some parts of Yasumi's and Nami's routes as well? That this feeling of yours has got to be important, as in pretty big important by the rest of the story's standards. However, if that person wasn't the one, then
夏姉さんを騙して剣を手に入れようとしたのは
Roryu, the one-eyed, white-haired Omiuji, Sekiganke was.
浦島の鬼の大将
Ding, 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 ding.
浦島のああ昔話の鬼の王はクロークルーに呪力を封じられたんだっけ
She'd been filled with thoughts of obtaining the sword and killing Urshima's sea god, so she forgot about the legend. But if Sekiganke were the Oni king whose magic was sealed, I could see why it would want to kill the dragon god of Urashima.
確か鬼切りの矢で左目を潰されて。
I nodded as I got it. Then, in order to escape pursuit, we had unnecessarily crossed over to Urashima. I think it was very necessary for us to cross over, considering the circumstances that brought us here. I wondered what we should do from here on out. Return the sword? I guess that's certainly one option worth exploring. Because, I mean, after all, we've pretty much just established here that Kai has been deceived. So, really, we point that out to her, then what reason does she have here to keep going along with the plan? Unless, of course, Ryu has some kind of backup plan up his sleeve if Kaya decided to be disobedient. After all, like I pointed out, he did revive Kaya, so I seriously wouldn't be surprised if he had an ace up his sleeve in order to deal with a defiant Kaya. Like, I don't know, cast a spell or something that immobilizes her or something. Or instantly whisks her soul back to the netherworld. Something like that. Now that I say that out loud, fighting Ryu with Kai is going to probably be a lot more difficult than I thought. Anyway, speaking of fighting Ryu, let's do this option.
その老流、陰陽師を倒せば。
Then the karma from 8 years ago will all be cleared. If the origin of the problem, the Onikin of Onigashima, were defeated, then everything would be solved full circle. I wondered if it could be defeated, just like how it was defeated before. In our hands, we held a sword which could kill a god, but I wondered if just that were enough to defeat the Oni King. If it could kill a god, I'm sure it can defeat an Oni King. By definition. Against the Oni King, in order to achieve checkmate, we need pieces besides the rook and the lance.
夏姉さん、それなら協力した方がいいと思う。
Yesterday's enemies were today's friends. Migiwa was an Onikiri who was definitely stronger than me, and that person, not Sekiganki, who had overwhelmed with a sword, not Zanisen, who was even an Oni. If we could get her help, if we could get that person as an ally, then it seemed the battle situation would be in our favor.
何が望みだ、言ってみろ。
Well,
剣などなくても叶うことなら、わしが合力してやってもいい。
well, I would at least argue that it would probably even everything out between you guys and Roryu. But then again, Kohaku did manage to somehow do the bastard in on her own, so maybe you're right. If we could talk to her, it seems we had a chance of becoming allies.
問題なのはその剣だったみたいだから。翔ちゃんに任せるわ。
Though it didn't show in her face, Natsune-san, who had been so convinced, might be so down she couldn't trust her judgment. Because I knew Natsune-san's personality, I felt it couldn't be helped that she felt that way given the situation. If Natsune-san wasn't against it, then the decision to increase the number of allies should be correct.
右輪に連絡つけてみる。もしもし、右輪？
Last night, Migiwa had fallen into the ocean but seemed to be okay. Well, you didn't really check, now did you? Maybe this time, for all we know, this time she probably choked on a barnacle or something. It seemed the reason the Tsubaki spirit didn't chase after us at that time was in order to save Migiwa. Or maybe I'm just forgetting what exactly happened last time. I don't really care right now. Since it seemed we were willing to return the sword, the negotiations went faster than expected. It seems that to the Tsubaki spirit, the Sekiganki, Baruryu, was an enemy.
分かった。夕方にそっちに行くから、それまでのんびりそこで待て。
Relax and wait? I think not. I think that Shokyo and Kaya should find a bunch of different colored pebbles and make a makeshift game of checkers. The conversation in Migawa got cut off. Since I didn't charge my phone last night, the remaining battery was unreliable. The sun was still high up. There was nothing to do now but to wait. I talked to Natsune-san about the events that happened from when I had miraculously survived 8 years ago until today. My father and mother were the same as always. My grandfather wasn't senile and as full of life as ever. Using the memory I had of Natsune-san as an instructor, I had continued on with kendo. In middle school, I had gotten rather good grades. I had entered Seijo Girls Academy, and right now, I was the captain of the kendo team. And starting this year, with help from our advisor, we were even receiving training from Kakubi-sensei. I knew that Natsune-san and Kakubi-sensei were acquaintances, but I was a little surprised to hear that Natsune-san was also acquainted with his daughter, Hanako-san. In other words, Aoi Sensei. 8 years ago, Aoi Sensei would have been... she'd be about the same age as I was now. I talked about things like that. But like Natsune-san, I also wasn't good at talking, so when I stopped, the sun was still high up.
夕方まで時間があるわね。
Checkers!
翔ちゃん、ちょっと出かけてくるわ。
You better not, ditch me. Taking the bag which had her blade and the sword inside, Natsune-san stood up.
夏姉さん、どこに？
Looking at her stiff face, which had just been relaxed a moment earlier, as I had been talking, caused my heart to tense. You better not go after Cyclops on your own either. Where was Natsune-san going? What was she going to do?
いろいろ誤解をしていたみたいだから、確かめたいことがあるのよ。
What did I just say? I knew where she was headed. There was only one place I could think of that would cause Natsune-san to make an expression like that. Sekiganki, Baruryu, was the one that deceived Natsune-san. But the one who took me away and killed Natsune-san was...
根方さんのところに行ってくる。
Oh. Well, don't go to his place either. Ah, so Natsune-san really was going to get her revenge. Well, I don't think we should go, because I think that would just cause things to just spiral downward into an absolute shit show for us all, especially if Roryu happens to show up at a bad time. So I think it'd be better to err on the side of caution until our allies get here, at least. It's been said that when Natsune-san has an expression like that, matters wouldn't be resolved with just talking. If I also nonchalantly went along to that place, then just like 8 years ago. That's why I decided to remain here and wait. No, what? You mean that wasn't you just trying to convince her to wait here with you? God damn it! This is even worse. Since I'd stay up all night, I thought it might be good to sleep until Natsune-san returned. or until Migiwa came, but she probably might not be coming back because, as we've seen in previous routes, Nikata is not exactly weak, even though he's human. Far from it. The guy knows how to use a metal stick like a boss. I was worried about the safety of Natsune-san, who went to Nikata-san's place and couldn't sleep. My body was tired and I was sleepy, but the loud thumping in my heart wouldn't allow me to sleep. Natsune-san seemed to have calmed down, so I don't think she would just suddenly start up a fight, but if Nikata-san was the one who wouldn't listen and attacked...
Natsune-san, まだかな?
The sword left in the corner of the cave concerned me. A cursed item from the Age of Gods that could even bury a god. A god slayer. This is truly a terrifying item. When Migiwa was this close and got hit by its miasma, it had caused her to fall into the ocean. Although, I wonder why the effect on me seemed weak. Plot armor, that's why. Good old plot armor. I was very curious about the sword. I was told to limit my contact with it, but... Well, we have seen that Shoko can wield the sword without too much trouble. Most of the time, so maybe it'd be okay? If not, then, well, I can always come back to this choice and just restrain myself, right? I mean, an ending's an ending. I couldn't hold back my curiosity. The moment I touched the sword, it probably lasted less than an instant. But acting like Somatu, a ring of lanterns, it penetrated my body and burned me from the inside. There was a scene within the light that the sword let me see. I was riding on a boat. It wasn't a type of boat or ferry that I was familiar with. A vision of the past? As if to prove my point, the people on the boat were clad in heavy armor. There weren't just large men aboard. There were also high-ranking ladies in resplendent gowns and hair and traditional coiffures? I definitely don't think I pronounced that right. This seemed more like an entire group relocating than the start of a battle. Among them all, I was the only child. I was wrapped in the arms of an old nun. I was watching this, but I didn't know who this person was. You're the living reincarnation of somebody from this time period, aren't you, Shoko? Maybe that explains these weird feelings inside you that don't belong to you that you keep experiencing every so often. Especially when Kohaku is within your gaze, curiously enough. I do wonder what I mean, I would assume that maybe the reason for why this feeling seems to pop up within you whenever you see Kohaku is that maybe you're the reincarnation of Yasuhime-sama, the princess from this old time within the legend of the islands. But the reason I'm doubting that is because her soul is already inhabiting another vessel by this point, so it can't be you. It can't be her that you are the reincarnation of. Probably somebody else from the same time period, though, that has some connection to Kohaku regardless. Anyway, moving on. However, judging by the condition of her skin, she seemed to be about the same age as Akiko-san. To me, who was watching this, I understood that she was probably my grandmother, or someone similar to that. There were also two warriors in splendid uniform on either side, protecting me, as if I were their lord. One was an older gentleman, whose complexion didn't look too well, though I didn't know if that was due to exhaustion or sickness. The other was a powerfully built man who was probably really strong. In one hand was a plain lawn sword, in the other, a long sword. Okay, so the other is just plain, and the other is just itself. Plain and, well, not plain. Got it. I looked up at the grandmother, who was embracing me from behind, and asked,
浜瀬屋、浜瀬屋、この先どうなるのか。もはやこれまでなのでしょうか。
時の趨勢、もはやわしにも覆せぬな。
The older warrior of the not-so-good complexion reached his hand out towards my head. The other warrior stopped him, as if it were a rude act to do such a thing. Only for this short while did he refrain from considering us uncle and niece, as he tenderly brushed my long, straight black hair. So, your uncle, huh?
叔父上。
後のことはこの叔父に任せてくだされ。愛しい姫よ、我が名よ。これからあなたを迎えに鬼が来ます。
鬼が私をさらうのですか。
人気とともにさらって行きます。
甘瀬の持つそれはまがいものなのですか。本物であったらこのようには持てませぬ。
I saw an illusion of the sword, so I predicted something like this, but dressed like a nun, my grandmother held. Something with the same shape as the sword. They were saying I had no choice but to go with the Oni, along with bringing the sacred treasure. I would have bid farewell to my grandmother and my uncle. I would have to.
僧侶殿、その鬼は信頼できるのですか。
彼女はこう言っていましたよ。主らが御敵でもある異母兄は剣を立てまつっておった熱田の生まれ。海に沈めてでも渡したくはない代物よ。
Your bitter enemy, my half-brother, is from Matsusa. Wait a minute. Isn't that where Roryu is from?
父の口車に乗ってホイホイ扉を開いたかもしれんと。
I can't think of anyone else they could be referring to other than Roryu here. My uncle was saying that, at the very least, their interest in not wanting to hand over the sword were aligned. My uncle was saying no one was more suitable to carry the sword than me. It should be okay until a stable place was found. That's why you can hold the sword without affecting you too badly. It's because you're the reincarnation of someone who was able to hold the sword without too much trouble in the past. Guess that kind of clears up that mystery. And my uncle was saying that according to his eyes, that Oni was good and could be trusted.
鬼は私をどこへ誘うのですか。
わかりません。遥か北の地かもしれませぬが。
波の下より良きところに。
I peered at the ocean from the edge of the boat. The white spray scattered amidst rolling blue waves. If I turned my eyes upward, I could see that beneath the blue sky, something red flickered, borne by the wind. The scenery started to fade away. It started to fade into the redness of twilight. Flashback over.
今のは夢。
Something red. Kohaku, maybe? Can't think of anyone else, really. The sword has shown me someone's memory. I wondered whose dream it was. Yours, maybe? The sun had gone down. The tides had already changed. The stepping stones we had crossed over were starting to peek out from beneath the waves. Natsune-san, who had gone over to Nakata-san's place, still hasn't returned, right? She still hadn't returned. Go figure. Maybe I should be optimistic and hope that they're just drunk off their asses right now, or something, and they didn't decide to fight at all. I wonder if Miko and the Tsubaki spirit would cross the stepping stones and arrive here soon.
Hello, Osa.
Sure enough, here they are. And before the sun set, Miko and the Tsubaki spirit arrived. First, I apologized for thinking the Tsubaki spirit was the Sekiganki, Ba-Ruryu. That caused her to hit me on the head. Poor Shioko.
琥珀さん。琥珀？わしの名だ。二度と老流などと間違えるな。
Do you need a band-aid for your head, Shioko?
あなたは誰なんですか？わしはそうだな。剣の守り手だ。剣の封じが破られたので、眠っておったところを起こされたのだ。
Kohaku-san also had some fated connection with Roryu, and apparently appears during emergency situations regarding the sword.
さて、突然剣を渡すだなぞと。一体何がどうなっておる？
I talked and shared revelations with my cousin.
それは。
I was gonna say distant cousin, but well, they're not exactly distant, are they? Is that a firework I just heard? The moon had risen, the tides had filled, and the last afterglow of the day had disappeared to turn into night. However, Natsune-san still hadn't returned. She's been gone all damn day. That's definitely not a good sign.
この時間になっても帰ってこないってことは。
She had gone to fight with Nakata Munutsugu. So,
負けたでしょうね。
I guess it is possible. The uneasiness in my heart I had felt when Natsune-san said she was going turned out to be correct.
剣気がそう簡単に死ぬか？ですけど、剣はここにあるから昨日みたいなことには。
With the strength of the cursed sword from the Age of Gods backing her, Nakata Munutsugu wouldn't have been able to escape. Of course, even without the power of the sword, Natsune-san was strong, but that didn't mean she was the strongest. Two similar types, Kohaku-san, had overwhelmed Natsune-san, who had returned from the dead to become an Oni. In a different fight, where both had been human, Nakata and Munutsugu had killed Natsune-san at that time. Like how human Mikuwa was an Onikiri, just because Natsune-san was an Oni, it didn't mean she was stronger than Nakata Munutsugu.
ネカタが老流とつるんでおるなら、おそらく剣を手に入れるための人質にされるだろう。
If she were a hostage, then even if she were defeated, that didn't mean she was killed. But what if the Urashima priest, Nakata Munutsugu and Sekiganki Baburyu, who was after the sword, weren't working together?
ネカタが老流や剣と無関係の場合、鬼の強い血を持つ剣気は 良い贄となるのではないかな。
Another reasonable assumption. If that were the case, then Natsume-san was still...
そちらの事情はそちらの事情としてだ。
Without any hesitation, Kohaku-sen stuck out a small white palm, smaller than my own.
剣を渡してもらおうか。
Well, I don't have any reason to distrust you with it, so okay.
約束だし、剣は渡す。
I held onto the blade of the sword and presented the handle to Migiwa. Migiwa jerked her hand back from the sword as if I had stuck a hot iron at her.
あ、私じゃなくて琥珀さんに渡して。
なんで？あなたのところのものじゃないわけ？
うちにそれを持ってきたのが琥珀さん。それに剣を持ったら私は吐くわね。
Setting aside Natsume-san, who was an Oni, Migiwa was saying it was strange that I could hold the sword without any problems.
剣を持つには資格がいるのよ。
I don't need your stupid qualifications. Qualification?
うちの若なら多少はその資格を持ってるんだけどね。
I wonder if I also had that qualification.
剣はわしが持っておった方が良いだろう。
If she were the original person who brought the sword to Ryukyu, then she was over 800 years old. She took hold of the sword.
わしであれば、こいつの力を虎の子として扱うことができる。
Kohaku-san let out a low snicker as she said that.
風が。
The wind had gotten stronger. The roar of the wind was mixed with the sound of the wind passing through the more than 100 large and small caves on Hiroshima.
これは外を出歩くのはやめておいた方がいいかもしれないわね。
でも
Something happened to Natsume-san during that time. As if to calm down my anxious feelings, Migiwa placed her hand on my shoulder.
明日には機会が訪れるわ。それまでは待つべきよ。
Because an encounter ritual would take place in the evening, Migiwa was saying that Natsume-san would be safe until then. If she wasn't going to be alright until that time, then even if we went now, it would already be too late.
おい、そろそろ出ても良さそうだな。
That was fast. The sound of Kohaku's voice woke me up. I didn't hear the roar of the wind outside. Kohaku-san kept staring my way. It's my eyes, isn't it? They are a lovely shade of purple, I must say.
ほう、この状態で眠れるとは、なかなか肝が据わっているではないか。
I am human. Humans need sleep. Otherwise, we die. Or perhaps she was trying to say I was ignorant and dull-witted. No, you. Now, we are going over... You know what? Both locations are good places to check. I'm going to take a guess and say they're probably at the shrine by now, or on their way there. We head to the sea god's shrine. The sea god's shrine was still underwater. Munutsugu was nowhere to be found. Uh-oh, that's not a good sign by my
進行
book.
状態のカーソルを合わせると正題が表示されるわよ。
It's quite the wide arc we got here. Finally, the tide started to recede. The sea god's shrine started to appear on the water's surface. In all likelihood, the people who came here today would have to have the special permission of the organizer of this event. They would first have to cross on a boat to the sea god's shrine, and then lay down the rope to make a floating bridge on the way back. When boarding the boat, and when descending from the sea god's shrine, I felt as if they would humbly bow down their heads. A young man in the prime of his life would bring a splendid bowl, and with trepidation, cross over to the sea god's shrine. The man would tie down the ox at the sea god's shrine. Facing the shrine, he would clap and then hurriedly leave. Perhaps he was preparing for the ritual because Munutsugu was nowhere to be found. If we wandered around, there was also the possibility that we might pass each other by. If that were the case, then it would be fine to just wait in one place where the person was certain to come. And when sunset approached, and the ocean shined a golden color that looked more dazzling than during the day, a person dressed in white, scowling as fiercely as ever, I see. Following him was a tall man dressed in... Okay, this is interesting. They're both going to the shrine. Following him was a tall man dressed in black who looked like a silhouette. The ones dressed in white and black crossed over the bridge and headed for the sea god's shrine. Nakata Munutsugu and Ba Roryu. How do you know that's him? Did you ask for his name already without me noticing? Natsu-Nisen was nowhere to be found. Whether she was at the Nakata mansion or some other place, she wasn't here. Nakata Munutsugu and Roryu were at the sea god's shrine. If we defeated those two, I need to ask Nakata Munutsugu about what happened to Natsu-Nisen.
わしは老流をやる。お主らは二人がかりでもう一人。根方の当主の足止めをしておれ。二人でそれでいいんですか？二人でそれができるならばな。見ればわかるが、あれは相当に鍛えておるぞ。
I already knew that. Natsu-Nisen. Nakata Munutsugu was the one who...
おい、持っておれ。
After confirming the heavy object that Kohaku-san tossed my way, I was surprised. You're giving me the sword?
剣？なんで？それでも持たれば戦力にならん。
Kohaku-san was going to fight with Roryu. Miyu and I were going to fight with Nakata Munutsugu. I don't know. I mean, this seems kind of like a very risky move. Even risky move for you. Just hand over the freaking sword to someone who... Frankly, you don't really fully grasp whose ability to wield this thing without throwing up or anything else, really. You don't even fully grasp, if that makes any sense. It just seems very risky for you, is all I'm saying. In other words, was she telling me not to be a burden on Miyu?
行くぞ。
As Miyu and I crossed over the floating bridge on unsteady legs, Kohaku-san made an unbelievable jump to the sea god's shrine.
久しいな。老流、老流、馬老流。
直接会うのは何百年ぶりかと思うが、お互いまだ生きてたようだな。
800年を生きる体に誰がした？
はは、俺だな。俺がした。俺が作り変えてやったんだよな。
This seems like the exact same dialogue I remember coming across in Nami's route.
承諾を得ずに勝手にな。
そうだ。なかなか便利だろう。
ところが、お前のこさえたこの体。
Kohaku-san and Roryu continued their fight, which was at a level beyond normal human beings. And then, as for me, an ordinary person, I couldn't keep up with the extraordinary level of fight between Nakata Munutsugu and Miyu. I I've never had to deal with anything but a one-on-one fight, so I was afraid of making a careless move that would burden Migiwa. Or decapitate her. You should make sure you don't do that either. Against the Nakata Koryoryu, which focuses on counterattacking, Migiwa concentrated on defense and was somehow able to hold on. And that's not even mentioning the fact that if Migiwa got close to the item I was holding, she might collapse. I realized that there was something I could use to my advantage. I didn't even think about that little fact, that if she gets too close to the sword, Migiwa could collapse. So really? Kohaku giving me the sword and just expecting us both to handle Munutsugu is both risky and stupid. That's right. If I use the power of the sword. Not sure why I wasn't affected much, but humans hit by the miasma of the sword would get hurt and have their movements dulled. Its effects didn't distinguish between friend and foe. It was like a genocidal weapon that would hurt all those around it. Sorry about this, Migiwa. As I apologized deep down to Migiwa, who would probably become entangled in this too, I grabbed the hilt of the sword. With my arms, I firmly clutched the pommel of the sword. Something seemed to enter me from that location. Given how quickly things have been moving along since I've chosen to come to the Sea God Shrine, I've been kind of wondering off the back of my mind if I made the wrong choice. And now that this seems to be happening, where I'm assuming I'm getting possessed by a sword, I'm almost certain now I made the wrong choice. A viscous, black power that would dissolve and mix up all colors entered into me. And before I could unsheath it, Nakata Munutsugu turned his back to Migiwa, as if he considered her insignificant, and headed my way. Nakata Munutsugu had continued to dodge every attack as if he could foresee them. He'd also been keeping track of my movements. One secret sword art was the ability to view an opponent as if watching from a hill, but Nakata Munutsugu also saw his surroundings. Nakata Munutsugu, who was headed my way in order to take care of a dangerous situation.
Osa!
Yeah, I'm pretty much 100% certain now I made a bad choice. There was a sharp sensation in my neck. My line of sight tumbled as it kept falling lower. I fell from the top of the Sea God Shrine and continued to sink into the middle of the ocean. My head was stained in the light of dusk and the spray of blood as I sank into the evening waves.
Nekata Kuroryu, Tsubaki.
My body was still on top of the Sea God Shrine, as if trying to chase me. The flowing blood poured down, following me. The redness in the ocean was thick and dark, just like what happens to ripe fruit when it falls to the ground. Okay, we're just gonna head to your place next. Fuck it. Oh, hello? Seal and Nami's route has been unlocked. Well, we finally unlocked the seal on your route, huh? About damn time. We headed for the Nakata residence. Because Nakata-sen had to prepare for the ritual, he wasn't at home. Fortunately, that allowed us to sneak into the mansion. Hello, Nami. Nami should have been a Shoshinji. Though I shook her and tapped her on the cheeks, Nami showed no signs of waking. Did something happen, Shoshinji? In order to find out, I decided to make a phone call. In the Kazan's room, I found a black telephone of a type seldom seen nowadays. My grandpa also took care of his things, but maybe because of work, he uses faxes, etc., since long ago, so a rotary phone was rare. I'd had the slim hope that there'd be a cell phone charger, but like this, even a cell phone might not be found. Anyways, Mikado-san seemed to be a person that didn't need to have many telephone conversations. I gingerly turned the dial on the unfamiliar phone and called Aoi Sensei, whose cell phone was at Shoshinji. I was afraid she might refuse the call since the number was unknown, but after a short call, Aoi Sensei picked up the phone.
もしもし、葵です。幼いです。葵先生ですね。
It turns out that Nami was indeed missing.
とにかく、夕べはひどい嵐だったから、海の方に行ったとしたら大変だわ。山の方でも大変なのは大変なんだけど、今、桜井さんたちが手分けしてナミちゃんのこと探してくれてるわ。そのことなんですけど、先生、崖崩れとか危ないだろうから、綾代たちに連絡して呼び戻してください。ナミでしたら、今、こっちで寝てますから。え？ちょっとそれどういうこと？
I really wondered what exactly was going on myself. Simple. Cyclops had his monkey henchmen. I know they're not actually monkeys, but I'm calling them such because reasons. He had his ocean monkey henchmen kidnap Nami and bring her over here.
双子とかよく似た別人という線も考えたんですけど、そっちの波が消えているなら、そっちにいるのがナミちゃん本人である可能性も高いか。おい、良いものが見つかったぞ。
A machine gun?
何ですか？根方代々の覚書だ。
I would have preferred a machine gun.
私には読めません。
私は読める？なるほど。
何が書いてあるの？
しばし待たれい。要点だけかいつまんで拾い読みするから。
According to Migiwa, the contents were about... Nakata had a hidden ritual of human sacrifice. To keep it secret from others, it was conducted in an underground sanctuary.
地下祭で。
So there was a high probability that Natsune-san was also there, but... Well... I think we should go to the sanctuary. I think Nami will be okay for now. The odds were that place was most likely candidate. We decided to head for the underground sanctuary of the Nakata. From the countless caves on the western end of the island, we searched for a cave that was an entrance as we went down and down.
道、こっちで合ってるんでしょうね。
さあ。
さあって、古文書読んだの右輪でしょ？
祭殿に至る順路は書いてなかった。
まあ、そうだろうな。記事はこと上げせずだ。
The truly important details weren't written down in the documents, since they might be viewed by others. Is that how it was?
何？こっちの道で合っているはずだ。行き止まりだと。
Also, our enemy wasn't just this maze.
また来た。
結構な集団。
Oh, look! It's the ocean monkeys.
あれを配置しているのは老流か。ビビたるものだろうが、無駄に力を使いよって。こんな。
気合い入ってるわね。
当たり前でしょ。その雲打ちならば、 公に風情には十分すぎる獲物だ。証拠でなくとも剣が震えるのならば、公に風情は簡単にほふる。安姫様の霊剣新たかですからね。安姫様の霊剣？呆れたな。お主気づいておらなんだろうか。
Realized what?
その木刀は剣に比べると持っておる力自体がごくごく些細なものに過ぎないが、その力の性質は剣と同じだぞ。剣と
The same as the thing that unhinged Natsu-Nisan.
その木刀が重いとか、握っていると気分が悪くなるとか、そういうまあその程度の力にならお主が負けることもあるまい。便利に使ってやるがいいさ。
And then we continue to travel downwards. Here we are once again. We were no longer in a passageway, but in a large room that I didn't believe could have existed underground. The room was surrounded with stones, giving off phosphorescent light, really making it look like the Dragon King's palace. The waterways were about 2 meters in width, dividing the room into 9 parts. In the middle was an island with a pedestal on top. The pedestal consisted of thick circles of gradually decreasing width, stacked on top of each other, which made it look like a pyramid. Like the walls, whirlpool patterns were carved into it. At the top of the pedestal was not a disc, but a rectangular altar. That was probably where the sacrifice was placed. A woman in black was lying down on top of the stone altar. It looked like a bed. There she is! That woman dressed in black was... As if they expected us, I could see 2 men standing at the center entrance to this location. The Kaimanutsugu and Sekiganki Baruryu. The Shikigami were probably summoned there by Roryu, as there were Moryu gathered around inside the sanctuary. Well, I think it'd be pertinent of us to try to take care of these guys first, because I feel like just trying to rush over to Natsu-Nisan might just have them do whatever they were going to do. It might inspire them to rush killing her or something, because clearly she's been placed there as a sacrifice. So let's take care of them. There was a crowd of Moryu along the path leading to the altar. In order to save Natsu-Nisan, we would have to eliminate them. But there was no end to them. Until we defeated the Baruryu, the Yomiuji who created them, they would probably respawn an infinite amount of times. He was the one that transformed Natsu-Nisan into an Oni. I'll take care of him first. Good luck.
かわいいもんだな。この俺が丸腰だとでも思ったかよ。
Roryu stuck out the palm of his black hand. Something started to gather there.
来たれ我が矛。流撃よ!
That indeterminate shape stretched, twisted, and while I watched, changed its shape into a 3-pronged halberd. Roryu gripped a 3-pronged halberd in his hand.
どこから？くだらん手妻だ。そこいらへんに溶けている水を奴の血をかくに寄せ集めただけだ。奴は自称海縁に住まう恵比寿の王だからな。その程度の水芸は造作もないだろうさ。
肩払いたいな。
Roryu drove me off with a swing of his Ryugeki. His halberd, boredom magic was much stronger than the virtuous Kumoichi, and he drove me off with it.
こんな
A little help, Kohaku?
おいおい、どっちを向いてやがる。
An illusion. That's right. This person was a one-eyed, white-haired Omiyuchi.
無駄だ。
He wasn't an honest and proper swordsman.
もうせえ。
And using his ability in the martial arts, my body was pierced by the three ends of his weapon. That was sudden. Round 2. I head toward Natsuni-san. As Kohaku-san headed for Roryu. And Miyu head for Nakata Minutsugu.
戦中だな四天王に切り当たり前でしょ役付きだってねかた宗次と正面から当たるのは避けるああそうだろうともわしとてまっとうな内物では勝負しないところだ
You guys sure love shilling for this guy, don't you?
ああ変わってやってもいいがこっちの相手はクロウ流を最初に伝えた男だぞ
俺が作ったクロウ流は根本部分がちらっと残ってるぐらいで。
防戦いっぱいでどうにもそれもやばいしかも毛量が大量発生うるさいぞ右は手伝ってやるからしばらくそいつの足止めをしておけ鬼若行け
I'm not gonna lie. Seeing this hulking beast smash these little bastards around is oddly very satisfying. The huge Oni that was summoned continually pulverized the throng of Muryu into blessed dust.
どうした虎姫。我が娘。
Foster daughter. Roryu swung Ryugeke and chased after Kohaku-san. Kohaku-san dodged the first blow. He aimed a second blow at where she was headed, causing her to brake sharply. Repeating those blows, it wouldn't be possible to continue dodging, and she'd have to use the sword to fend him off, but when compared to me, Kohaku-san was rather strong. However, compared to Roryu, also an Oni, she appeared to be powerless. If she released the power of the sword, she would be able to obtain great power, but that would be...
その剣。使わないならこの父にくれ。
どこの世界に娘のおもちゃを取り上げる父がいるか
Oh my... What kind of childhood did you live before turning to an Oni, Kohaku? Just curious. And you'd probably be shocked at how many fathers would do more than just confiscate a toy from their daughter. She readjusted herself and this time started a continual assault. Maybe it's an ancient Japanese thing, I don't know. Clash of Swords was like a raging fire, as she stopped Roryu's attacks.
おいおい、子供には過ぎたおもちゃだな。おい、にしても長生きしてるじゃねえか、虎姫よ。
バロウリュウバロウリュウバロウリュウ貴様がわしをこのような体にしたのではないか
俺も大概長生きだからな。見知った人間が次々と死んでいくのは寂しくてな。
I'm sure your heart bleeds.
俺が育てた娘ともなれば、それもまた格別に。
その割には少しも顔を見せようとしなかったではないか。どの面を下げてそんなことを吠えるかよ。
I think she's got a point.
そりゃ仕方ないだろう。会うなら切りかかってくるようなやつがいるからな。頼りがないのは無事の知らせと、そう思って割り切れば顔など見ずとも。
ロウリュウ、死ね
With a vein popping out of her extremely white forehead in irritation, Kohaku-san didn't let Roryu finish his sentence. And then, I
ついた
I jumped over the last waterway and went up the levels of the pyramid like a pedestal. The difference in height between the levels was too large to call them steps. I didn't care and bounded up in one breath. Natsune-san was lying down on an altar at the very top. Natsune-san was an Oni and considered a dead person, but after we met again the night before last, I didn't even think about that. Her dark, hard eyes gave off a clear light just like before. When I touched her skin, it was also warm and soft. However, right now, for the first time, I was worried about whether or not Natsune-san had actually died. If she was going to be sacrificed, then it would be weird if she were dead already, so my concern was misplaced, but... Under the light given off by the swirl patterns in the sanctuary, Natsune-san had no expression and was pale as a dead person.
冷たい
She had some special spell. Now, had some special spell been placed on her so that she wouldn't wake up before the ritual? The cheek I touched felt cold. Natsune-san was under a deep sleep spell, where even the violent clashing of weapons resounding in the sanctuary wouldn't reach.
夏姉さん
Even though I slid my hand around while calling her name, Natsune-san didn't wake. Stimulation from the outside wouldn't reach. In order to wake Natsune-san, you gotta go sleep, you gotta perform Sleeping Beauty, right? Oh my god! I was just joking! I was just joking! Oh man. You know what? Maybe this is a sign from the powers that be. Maybe I should select this option because I ended up making that little joke, and then boom, it's like the universe saying, "Oh yeah? Why don't you actually do it?" So you know what? Challenge accepted. For Sleeping Beauty. In order to wake a Sleeping Beauty from a deep abyss of slumber, we got to perform a literal act of kissing cousins. You need to shake the interior, not the exterior of the person. You need to transfer the necessary power to get the person to awaken.
夏姉さん
I wish she would open up her closed eyes. I didn't want to see this expressionless face. I wanted to see her normal look, which I understood, though others might find hard. That's why, in order for that to happen, that's why I will impart some of myself into Natsune-san. Whether it was sympathy for a fellow swordsman, or if it was also an offering, a sword in a black scabbard was next to her. It was a longsword that Natsune-san used. With that heavy leaden sword. Whether it was due to my nervousness or not, the sword felt several times heavier than normal as I unsheathed it. Not just the black scabbard, but the blade itself resembled the owner. It was plain, but hard and clear, like the owner's eyes. Now, just like how I had withdrawn this blade from which was a representative of her, I was going to try to get her to open her eyes. That's why I will open myself up and lay bare the power that I would give to Natsune-san who was inside there. I slid the blade pressed against my arm as I directed the representation of Natsune-san towards myself. I felt a searing pain like a hot skewer as my field of vision turned white. A moment later, it was accompanied by a sharp pain as the red lifeblood I had excavated welled up. Letting my emotions dictate, I'd slice my forearm. But this way, I wouldn't be able to make Natsu-Nisan drink this. If I had just cut an extremity like a finger, I could have directly pushed into Natsu-Nisan's mouth. There was no helping it. Sometimes we make really stupid mistakes. This is one of them. I didn't mind. I placed my lips on the wound and sucked in a bit. My mouth filled with hot blood. The heat was proof of life. Towards the sleeping Natsu-Nisan. This is a rather unconventional way to reenact Sleeping Beauty. It's like something that a vampire would do or something. And also, last I checked, Sleeping Beauty and her prince figure weren't blood related, so there's also that angle to consider as well regarding the unusualness of this all. But I mean, hey, maybe this will work. I transferred it to her by placing my mouth on top of hers. Yep, it worked. There was a bright light residing in her eyes, which had opened. It was an unknown situation where I was in front of her and made her drink some unknown substance. If such a thing had happened to me, I might have been surprised and been flustered, wondering what I should do. However, without any hesitation at all, Natsu-Nisan woke up her body and sat up. The eyes that captured mine relaxed into a smile for just an instant.
Shou-chan, 私の刀を。
Yes, ma'am.
はい。
Natsu-Nisan's sword with the black scabbard that I had just used. After I passed her the heavy leaden sword, Natsu-Nisan knew what she had to do. As with sword in hand, she started to run. Miwa let out a painful gasp as her back smashed into the edge of the pedestal. Natsu-Nisan left the altar. I heard a sound like a car hitting someone. A few seconds later, Miwa crashed into the pedestal.
右は
In a panic, I left the altar and rushed down to Miwa's side.
右は生きてる死ぬかと思った。
So, ocean and getting thrown into pedestals. You're just not having a good time in this route. Leaning against the pedestal, she turned her gaze towards the ceiling. Looking at me, she waved her hand back and forth.
さすが古流の根方九郎流。当て身の技も強烈だったわ。まるで牛に吹っ飛ばされた気分。
She had tried to escape, but had been flung into the air. The strike was strong enough to knock her over 2 meters across the waterway. Dear God! How much protein does this guy eat for breakfast? Miwa doesn't touch her back, which hit the pedestal hard, but pressed her side, probably where she was hit, looking fatigued. She tried to get up, but once again leaned against the side of the pedestal. Even if she wanted to move, she couldn't move. She had probably reached her limit. That's to be expected since, until Natsu-Nisan woke up, she'd been dealing with Nikana Munutsugu all by herself. No matter how she had trained, she wasn't that different from me. I was a little jealous that she had such an important role.
もうダメ。限界。
It's okay, you've earned your nap. Let me take care of it now. Natsu-Nisan now stood in place of Miwa, who had retired.
根方宗次。
Nikata Munutsugu looked from Miwa, who couldn't fight anymore, to Natsu-Nisan as she walked down the altar.
今度は私が相手になろう。
なるみかや。
Natsune-san unsheathed the steel blade from the black scabbard. The opponent was reflected in her hard, unwavering eyes. The Kenkei dressed in black faced off at the priest dressed in white.
3度目の正直などあると思うか
Well, I guess that confirms it. These two did fight each other. Natsune-san didn't answer. She just took one step forward.
まだわからないのか君では私に勝てはしない
She didn't plan on retreating as she took another step forward.
たとえ君がその娘幼い証拠の命を背負っているのだとしても
Don't you down talk her responsibility, man. That's some serious fighting words right there. In a rare move, the Kata Munutsugu, who furrowed the deep lines of his brow, moved his blade as he decided to strike first.
私にも同様に背負っているものがある
And then, the two of them crossed swords. There were no words that needed to be exchanged anymore. By the time of this third face-off, all their words had been used up. Both parties had no intentions of coming to an understanding. Both parties had no intentions to compromise. That's why there was no choice but to break the other opponent. The swords in their hands represented that desire. Since this was the third time, both parties could tell somewhat what the other party was going to do. They clashed swords, evenly matched. Natsune-san, whose strong, piercing attacks were like an avenging spirit. The Kata Munutsugu, who like a god that saw all, would handle an incoming attack and deal an appropriate counterstrike. The sea god of Nakata, Kuryukuru, was a deity like Bishamoten, so Nakata Kuru also had a god's strong protection. In a fight between humans, the winner would probably be decided by the one who ran out of breath first, creating an opening. However, Natsune-san was an Oni. Natsune-san's attacks didn't stop as she slashed horizontally and vertically. Though Nakata Munutsugu might have an all-seeing eye helping him dodge, under the barrage of attacks were two solid blows. The was a high-pitched sound, like the ringing of a hammer in a blacksmith shop. Using the strength of an Oni, she knocked the receiving blade aside, disturbing the rhythm of that precision machine. The attack immediately following that sliced through Nakata Munutsugu's sleeve. I thought that the match was completely even.
剣速と剛剣君が鬼となり手に入れたものはそれか
However,
鬼となり手に入れたのはその程度の力か
she had lost 8 years ago. The conditions yesterday, when Natsune-san had lost for the second time, were about like today. How many more times was it going to be? The counter-strike from Nakata Munutsugu, after he had dodged Natsune-san's attack, drew blood. Whether the strike was too deep, or because of too much blood loss, the power source was lost. Natsune-san fell to her knees.
Natsune-san! Natsune-san!
Natsune-san still didn't stand up.
Natsune-san!
Natsune-san still didn't stand up. He just said that. On her knees, she was still holding her sword, but was in an unguarded stance, something Nakata Munutsugu could easily see.
3度目の正直などあると思うか
I think I see what's about to happen here. Shioko's gonna try to get right in front. get right in front of Kaya to protect her and thus receive the blow meant for her. Therefore, reversing the situation from 8 years ago. As Nakata Minutsugu walked towards striking distance, he asked the same question he had asked earlier. He asked a question to which Natsuni-san had not replied.
そうですね。3度目の正直なんて言葉はありえないと思っていた。
However,
私の鬼となった体は
Natsuni-san's heart, which wanted to fight so much she became an oni.
人より丈夫なこの体は
Her heart, which was tougher and more straightforward than humans.
私の意志がくじけぬ限り
Natsuni-san's will, forged like tempered iron, where all impurities had been hammered out, would definitely never break.
何度でも何度でも
Tempered iron, which was hammered countless times, would become a good blade, which would never bend or break.
あなたの前に立ちはだかる夏姉さん
Natsuni-san stood up. Natsuni-san, who became an oni that would not waver, stood straight up.
根方さんあなたのやっていることは無意味です
She was saying that Nakata-san, not just him, no matter who it was, no one would ever cause her to break. I wondered if she felt pain. She furrowed her eyebrows and clenched her teeth. Power shone in her eyes, and in the blade reflecting the light of her will.
確かに君は鬼の力を手に入れているようだ。
Nakata Minutsugu stopped walking.
剣術流星以降に編み出された技。効率的に人の戦闘能力をそぐ理の一撃では、鬼である君を止めることはできないだろう。
Nakata Minutsugu said that while wielding the sword.
だが忘れてもらっては困る。本来のクロー流は豪の剣。浦や主天の童子のように銅から首を切り離し鬼を宿したその目をぐじる。そうされてなお君は再び立ち上がることができるか。
So, no need residing in the eye, huh? Just like Roryu.
鬼であれども受けてなお立つ自信はないな
Nakata Minutsugu had said he would gouge out her oni eye. Oh, that explains why when she got possessed by a sword, her eyes were different colors. But Natsuni-san looked straight back at him as she replied.
だから私はその一撃よりも早く鬼となるまでまっとうな剣の道に生きてきた成美かや唯一の危険受けてみよ
Holding her sword in an upper stance, Natsuni-san declared this was not going to be the same as the 2 previous times. Fire specialized in attacking. In that Oni's body, there was no need for defense. So right now, that one blow really would be like an instant kill. However, right now, they were still hotly glaring at each other. Nakata's sword style was basically the type that counters. Natsuni-san moved first. Starting from 0, she suddenly accelerated. In an instant, for an Oni, seemed infinitely shorter for a human, as she compressed her body and then went straight for the enemy. The tip of her sword stretched out. It turned into silver light as it stretched. The stroke of the sword was more like a straight line than an arc. The incredible stroke really was like a dragon taking flight, or like a flash of lightning. In the past, Natsuni-san had been called a rook, but the move now made her seem more like a dragon king. With the speed of a lightning attack from the Dragon King, which would split the heavens, it headed straight for Nakata Minutsugu. However, the Nakata Ruryu was probably the archetype for the Taman Ruryu's sword style used by the monk. You can do it, Kaya! In Taman Ruryu, one reads the movements of the opponent and then attacks first. In Chinese Kenpo, there was the saying, listen to the neck. Taman Ruryu also relies on listening to guess the opponent's attacks. Natsu-Nissen let go of the hilt of her sword with one hand.
左肩天面剣術ではなく剣道の技
Natsu-Nissen's specialty. I was also on the level of lance, but that was only an approximation of her strike.
いかに鬼の速さを加えようともそれはすでに破られた
いや右だ
The hand that let go of the hilt wasn't the right hand, but the left. Natsu-Nissen didn't use a one-hand strike with the left hand, but with the right. Her hand gripped near the sword guard, so there wasn't much room to stretch, unlike the left hand, which used the whole hilt. However, she didn't do this without a reason.
当てるための左ではなく
切り下ろすための鬼の力を加えた太刀だ
She was in an overhead stance, using the stronger right hand, which was gripping close to the sword guard for leverage.
だが
Nakata Munetsugu shifted his body slightly.
まともに受ければ太刀ごと断ち切る刃でも
There was a silvery flash. The killer technique which used a strange angle, and the power of an Oni struck down. It was a strict strike, born out of the pursuit of an ideal blow. But the sword of Nakata was the summit of human techniques. The Natsu-Nissen's sword, using the power of an Oni, was beyond human limits. There was a sound of slicing steel, like the cry of some strange bird. Who dropped? Following that sharp noise was the sound of something hitting hard and heavy, hitting flesh. It wasn't the sound of a steel blade slicing flesh.
虎つぐみ
Silent tiger, huh?
さやだと
Oh. It was a blow from the black lacquered scabbard, hidden beneath the shadow of the white blade. Mixed in and among the darkness, it was like a strike from a fantastical, chimerical bird.
眠るがいい根方宗次目覚めた時には型がついている
I knew you could do it. Nakata Munetsugu's body crumpled and fell. He didn't get up. You should pat yourself on the back. You took down a bona fide badass.
夏姉さん翔ちゃんやったわ
Shame we couldn't get this on film, because then you could boast to the whole world your skills. Natsu-Nissen faced me and smiled. At this time, it seems she really did reach her limit, as both her hands and knees touched the floor. Meanwhile, as Natsu-Nissen and Nakata Munetsugu concluded their fight, Kohaku-san and Roryu continued fighting. Perhaps Roryu didn't have to summon new Moryu, as the only people fighting were those two one-eyed Oni.
老流よ老流よそんなに剣が欲しいのか
The white sword and the black three-pronged halberd collided.
ああ欲しいな何としても欲しい
とつ国より来た陰陽師海縁に住まう恵比寿の王そんなに我が国の宝が欲しいのか
Fending off the endless attacks, Roryu narrowed his red right eye and gave a smile like a snake.
ああ欲しいな
そいつが欲しい。そいつの素性を知り得たせいで東の果ての島国組んだりまで来たんだぜ。
He glared with his red eye as he declared that was the only reason he came here, and was the only reason he was here right now.
しかしなぜだバロウリュ。わしとアリトが策を浪して剣は常しえに失われたと、お主もそれを信じたはずだ。
あの時ばかりはそう思ったぜ。だから俺は浦島に仕掛けを作った。ところが剣が失せてから100年経たないぐらいだったか。どこかの間抜けが封じを解いて剣の力を使ったのよ。
Roryu noticed that, dug around Urashima, and once again began his search for the sword.
情けねえな虎姫よ。お前それに気づかなかったか。
ロウリュ
Roryu's mocking smile ignited Kohaku-san's wrath as she pelted him with blows from the sword.
わしはその頃大陸で寝ていたよ。どこかのアホが作り損ねた中途半端な体のせいで長き眠りを強いられておったよ。
She tried to slice Roryu with the sword. Roryu tried to use Ryugeke to pierce Kohaku-san. It had a long reach, so Kohaku-san jumped backwards. After Kohaku-san landed, the two of them were separated by the waterway, out of reach of both their weapons. She then...
バロウリュ、そんなにこいつが欲しいなら
She calmly changed to holding the sword in a reverse underhand grip.
この通り
She raised her hands above her head.
くれてやる。
She flung the sword like a spear.
何？
The tassels of the double-edged sword fluttered in the wind as it flew in a straight line toward Roryu. The sword hit its mark. Oh, that is beautiful! Look at that! I should take a picture and hang it on a wall. Going through its target, it pierced Roryu through the chest.
いくらお主が不死の鬼でも剣の正気の前には滅びるしかあるまい。
さてそいつはどうだろうな。
Oh, great. Of course you had a backup plan for this too.
何？
俺は剣クロークルーにはちょいと特別な体勢があってな。
Roryu gripped the hilt of the sword and pulled out the blade that had pierced him. I heard an ominous, grating sound. As the white blade stained with blood was slowly pulled out and exposed, the ominous, grating sound grew louder. At the same time that the blood-stained tip left Roryu's chest, and red drops fell onto the floor.
水路の光が。この光は。
It wasn't on the level of the phosphorescence given off by the rocks in the walls. The waterway gave off a bright light, staining the underground sanctuary in a lapis lazuli color.
ロウリュ、貴様門を開いたな。
The noise I heard earlier was the sound of the gate opening.
ああ開いたとも。鍵たる剣を手に入れれば見えも何も関係ねえ。
Alright, I forgot you can do that with just a sword.
俺には剣を使うだけの力があるからな。
I heard the thunderous roar of rushing water.
さて
I wondered if the opened gate was a floodgate, as the roar of rushed water grew louder, and the water in the waterway receded. The water had all drained away, and only the lapis lazuli light filled the waterway. Past the walls of the underground sanctuary where it connected, the waterway continued in a straight path. Bright light flooded through past there.
そろそろ見物が始まるぜ。見たいやつはついてきな。お題はそうさな。
Finally obtaining the sword he desired after it was lost for almost 800 years, Roryu gave a wicked, joyous smile and said,
俺はビタ戦一問たりとも取らんが、ことと場合によっちゃ 魂そのもの取られるかもな。
Well, I only have one of those, so no thanks. He then jumped into the waterway, which had been drained of water.
待てバロリュー
Yeah, as cool as it was for a second, you tossing the sword at him like that clearly was not the best decision.
あーまったくも
Kohaku-sen chased after Roryu. Migiwa, whose task was to retrieve the sword, followed them, pressing onto her injury.
夏姉さん立てる
We also passed through the waterway filled with lapis lazuli light, and headed away from the underground sanctuary towards the outside. When we arrived outside the corridor,
さあ開くぞ。開いちまうぞ。
somebody cut him down. Now, he was opening up the gate. Outside the underground sanctuary, to the west of Hiroshima at the bottom of the sea. That event had probably just occurred. That thing was probably the gate. The central area had 3 rectangular slabs of rock that were almost 10 meters in length, looking like some sort of torii gate. From the center of the stone torii, the sea was pushed back in an ellipse of about 30 meters in diameter, exposing the sea floor. It was probably due to the power of the gate. The water that was pushed back created a wall reflecting lapis lazuli light. The sea had parted. In an old movie I'd seen, God had performed such a miracle, but more than that, I thought it was weird that the lapis lazuli light coming out of the stone gate, composed of 3 huge stone slabs of rock, reached here. If it were just 3 slabs of rock put together, I'd see the scenery on the other side. Instead, I saw lapis lazuli light. Past those stones was a place different from this one. Ba Roryu was trying to open a gate which connected from here to some unknown place. Past the gate was an exceedingly terrifying thing that made even the sword look like a trifling toy in comparison. Roryu had to be stopped. He had to be stopped before the gate was completely opened. Even though we knew that, we couldn't move at all. Well, force yourselves to! I heard that an ordinary human would faint just by being in the vicinity of the sword. Even me, who for some reason had some resistance to the sword, when I was hit by the power coming out of that gate, the heavy pressure would prevent anyone from moving. Only Roryu seemed to be enjoying himself as he laughed maniacally. A shadow slid close to Roryu. Please be Kaya. About to slit his throat. It was neither Natsune-san nor Kohaku-san. Oh shit. The pristine white clothes fluttered. Reflected in the light of the gate, the right figure melted in the lapis lazuli light. Roryu only noticed when that person was one step and one sword stroke away. Nikata? A spray of blood. If it was you, Nikata, thank you for listening to my request to cut this bastard down. A spray of blood.
俺の腕が俺の剣が
The tendons of Roryu's arm were cut, and the sword, which was the key, dropped to the floor. The sword made a metallic sound like the ringing of a bell during a sacred ritual, as it dropped onto the stone floor.
鬼一方言いや凸国の鬼王バロー竜
The person who had cut Roryu's arm and was standing perfectly straight in the raging storm of power was...
根方宗次
I would... in any other situation, I would say to you, Kaya, that you should have hit him harder, just to be absolutely sure that he'd be knocked out longer. But in this case, I'm glad that you didn't. It was Nakata Munutsugu, who was knocked unconscious by the blow from Natsune-san, but who had quickly recovered.
てめえ、一体何しやがる?
Ruining your day.
荒ぶる神である九郎様の眠りを守るのが根方の祭司の務めなれば、瑠璃宮へ至る門の封印を守り、そのほころびを二重の血でもって作ろうのが根方の祭司の務めなれば、馬老流門を開くという所業、黙って見過ごすはずがない。
この
Roryu had lost hold of his sword. Rather than picking it up, it was faster to summon his own weapon, Ryugeke.
根方九郎流。
Faster than Roryu could summon his three-pronged trident formed from water, Nakata Munutsugu sliced his head off.
椿!
Using Onitaiji skills and that in the past, a one-eyed, white-haired Omiyoji had taught Nakata, the Oni king's head was cleaved. What a delicious level of irony that we got here. I am loving it. Mwah. That was also the fringe of the duties of the Nakata priest. That day, the Nakata priest, Munutsugu, who worships Kurukuru, did not sacrifice an ox resembling Matamu, but instead cleaved the head of the Oni king. The black body, detached from the white hair and fair complexion, toppled over. He shook the blood from his sword and sheathed it.
老流は
Is dead, well, I almost said son, but you're not exactly a son, are you?
さすがの我が父も首と胴とが生き別れではな。放っておけば復活するかもしれんが。
Well, you could try chopping up into multiple pieces and then setting them on fire. Would that work? Kohaku-sen grabbed hold of Roryu's severed head, as if she couldn't stand the thought of him reviving. And that was how the Oni King, Ba-Roryu, was defeated by the human he had exploited. There was no one left who would think about opening the gate. Though also deceived like Natsune-san, the Nakata priest still performed his duty of protecting the seal on the gate. Now, we just need to close the gate, and everything will be resolved. The sword will be sealed by its guardian and the Suten. It will probably never again be exposed to human eyes. The sacrificial ritual that was brought to the Nakata of Hiroshima, it would probably collapse after what happened here. And then, after 8 long years, Natsune-san and I would return together to our home, which was far away from here. That's assuming, of course, that Roryu's death won't somehow end up taking hers away by proxy. Yes. All that was left was to close the gate.
門を閉じるには剣の力を使う必要がある。
However, for that to happen, you need to first have at least as much power as Roryu.
そしてもう一つの方法。
I wonder if I should truly call this retributive justice. Following the act of teaching Kuroryu to Nakata, Roryu had dug himself another hole. His last hole, as a matter of fact. The Nakata sanctuary was made to store power equal to the sword, enough to open the gate, a huge store of power. Right now, sleeping in that warehouse was power stored up in the ritual 8 years ago. If we use that power, then...
彼は言っていたよ。 剣がなくともあとほんの少しで必要なだけの力がたまるとならば、火の薬で体を変えた目方の長子ではなくとも
Let me guess. Oh, wait. Nikata and Minutsugu head towards the gate. Nikata and Minutsugu, without looking back or stopping, headed towards the center of the gate. With sword in hand, he was taking it to a place where no one would be able to obtain it again. As he crossed the gate,
あなた方根方の屋敷に二重になり損ねた娘がいる。老流の技により普通の体でこそ亡くなったが、それでもあれは生きている。これ
in the middle of the light, he bent forward and lowered his head.
すみませんが、あれをよろしく頼みます。
Yes, sir. For a moment, his near elderly back loosened a little and looked slightly lonely before he straightened up into the steely pose again.
それでは最後の根方の祭儀を執り行います。
In a sonorous voice, Nikata Minutsugu announced that he was going to conduct the final ritual.
竜宮の剣、謹んでお返し申し上げます。
He offered up the final sacrifice. And then
門から光が
it filled the light. Everything vanished away into the bright lapis lazuli light. Migawa, weakened by that power, Kohaku-san, holding Roryu's severed head, even Nikaya Minutsugu, who held the sword. In the lapis lazuli light which covered everything, the only sure thing I felt was the warmth of Natsumi-san next to me. I wondered how much time had passed.
今完全に閉じた。見ろ。
At Kohaku-san's words, I fearfully removed the hand covering my eyes and saw that the gate had lost its light.
反対側の海が。
The gate connecting to the Dragon Palace had lost its light, and I could see the ocean on the other side of the stone structure. The vertical wall of water, which looked like a wall or a frozen waterfall, started to violently shake.
おい、海が戻るぞ。
え、戻るって？
察しの悪いやつだな。普通の平らな状態に戻るということだ。
Migawa, who had sat down to rest, was greatly agitated. No way around it, Kohaku-san threw away Roryu's head and grabbed her arm. That's right, toss his head away like the trash it is! The place we were at right now was going to return to the ocean it had been before.
翔ちゃん。
The moment Natsumi-san grabbed my arm, the ocean crumbled. As the ocean came thundering down on us, in order not to become separated, we held on to each other tightly.
翔ちゃん。今度は離さない。今度こそは守ってみせるから。約束。約束よ。そうだ。まだ言ってなかったことがあるの。夏姉さん、お帰りなさい。
Well, how about that? It looks like I got Kaya's good end. I'd have to go through a little more trial and error than what I went through in order to get it. Not that I'm complaining. Guess it means all I have to worry about now is just finding all the different endings. And then, moving on.
港の城時の流れ止め しく差し込む光水面まで向かうこの広い海に漂う二人寄り添い離れないように揺られて水面まで浮かぶ水天の色が重なるその淡い声遠くまで二人なら
The nervous hand which shook felt ticklish. Though she tried to suppress her breathing, it still brushed against my neck. As if she were searching for something, her fingers moved along the muscles hidden beneath my neck.
まだまだだな。
My grandfather, Osanai Jinusuke, was head of the Osanai Chiropractic and Osteopathic Clinic. At his one word, she stopped.
お前生まれつき不器用者なんだからよ。
はい。
Well, holy shit! I guess the family doesn't have a problem with Kaya being an Oni and all that.
少しは自分の適性ってやつを考えられなかったのかね。
申し訳ありません。
Natsune-san, who returned to me, was living together at my house, just like she had been when she was a student. Migua's organization helped arrange the return of her family register, and Natsune-san was alive in society's eyes again. Well, that was nice of them. Since she had the proper homework, she could return to being a policewoman, but Natsune-san just shook her head. If she wasn't the head of a dojo, it'd be hard to earn a living with kendo. It wasn't like there weren't other vocations, but... Anyways, for the time being, she was doing odd jobs and employed by my grandfather as an apprentice.
そこからは細心に細心を重ねて気をつけろ。人間の体ってのは丈夫に見えて脆かったりする。転結一つでくたばることもある。
Now you're making me scared to ever go to a chiropractor for any reason ever.
はい。翔ちゃん、動かないで。
Can we at least get a profile or something of the guy? I want to know what he looks like.
頸椎なんか痛めると一生残ったりするからな。
ちょっとおじいちゃん、私ならいいわけ？
If it proved to be even a little useful, we could buy something like a practice dummy or...
翔ちゃん。
お前だからいいんだよ。
Gee, thanks. How exactly was it going to be okay?
カヤのやつは死んでも失敗しないだろうし。なに、失敗した時は失敗した時だ。
Okay, we'll just deal with it if Kaya happens to make a mistake and leave me paralyzed for the rest of my life. It'll be okay. I'm sure we could all put our heads together and come up with a way to solve that, such a problem were to occur. Ass.
何それ？
翔ちゃん。
夏姉さん？
翔ちゃん、その時は私が一生面倒を見るわ。
Well, I guess it'll be okay then. Okay, not really, but at least it would be something.
環境設定を保存するけど、それでいい？
Okay.
セーブ。青い城。
Hello. I meant to take a look at the ending list.
青い城。どの結末を見たいわけ？
Wait a minute.
青い城。
Oh! A fifth option just appeared here. Huh. I'll need to reference the translation guide images later then, see what that one is.
どの結末を見たいわけ？
Anyway, this is what I wanted to see. Kaya's stuff should be in here somewhere, yes. Well, okay, we got one right here. Two. So I got I got 9 endings apparently to search for. Well, it looks like I'll definitely be busy next time. But I mean, hey, at least I know what at least I'll know generally what to look for next. Wait a minute. Oh wait, that's right. This is Nami stuff. So I'm gonna go ahead and cut things off here, and yeah, we'll start hunting for Kaya's other endings in the next episode. And when we finally get around to finishing her ending, her remaining endings, I think I'm gonna try to go on to Kohaku's route next. I hope you guys enjoyed this latest episode of Aoi Shiro. If you did and you want to see more content from me, feel free to subscribe to my channel. I will see you all next time. Take care.